welcome to this week's episode of Pit Against a Live Western Boy College Show. I'm joined by my constant co-host, Heaven, Smurf, Murphy. Kevin, what's up?
What's up?
Pit Against is a live college show. If you would like to be live talking on air to us about your take, Lucas, join the Pit Against Discord by clicking on the link that's in the description, or Kevin put in chat. Then join the waiting room channel. Put your hot take in the topics channel. If we like your take, we'll pull you in for a mic check and then pull you on air. But we got a lot of small things to talk about today.
Yeah.
Let's start with a simple one. Actually, let me get their name. Mystic Rick. I'm calling people out on Twitter right now. Mystic Rick said, let me find it specifically. Victor is the least interesting deck in Flesh and Blood history. What's your thoughts on that?
I think I agree with that.
I think that's weird that you agree with that.
Why?
Okay.
Convince me.
So Flesh and Blood, let me rephrase that. Victor is the least interesting deck in Flesh and Blood history. Mm-hmm. How do we define interesting? Because okay. So interesting is well, this is an interesting wording that the internet decided to use.
Actually pulling up a definition.
Yeah. Actually pulling up a definition. Arousing or holding the attention, absorbing, getting people like clicking something in your head, engaging the attention of something exciting. Do you find Victor arousing? No. The man, not the horse.
Absolutely not.
Okay. He does play Rouse the Ancients. Thank you, Lucas.
It plays Rouse the Ancients. Correct.
Okay. I think it's 100% interesting. It has to be interesting. Clash.
That's not what they said, though.
Clash is wildly interesting.
No, they said it's the least interesting.
There has to be things
relative.
that are, I think there's I guess that is relative. Frick.
It can be interesting.
Yeah.
And it can still be the least interesting.
I think it's one of the most interesting for myself, at least. This is the kind of guy who was screaming during the like heavy hitters pre-release when people were doing clashes and wagers. Like someone like slams the instant attack gets +4 defense when you wagered a card, and then I'm freaking out. It's amazing. Also, there is like nodes in my brain that light up when I create a gold token as Victor. Like,
is that because you actually just draw a card?
Just draw a card. It's so great. Okay, why is it uninteresting? Why is it the least interesting?
Because you have two things to balance. Let's say you have three things to balance.
Okay.
No, you have like 2.5 things to balance.
Okay.
One is Clash.
Yes.
One is like go again / pressure. And then the half is Guardian.
Yeah.
Of just like, what do I fill out with the rest?
Yeah. Those are all good things.
More interesting than Fi and OTK Vis.
So it's really interesting, the word of interesting, because there's some people whose monkey brains just go burr when they go 3 with go again, 3 with go again, 3 with go again on Fi. So it might just be a subjective answer.
I mean, yeah, like this is a subjective statement. But like I think Fi was slightly more interesting just because of the difference between the Kodachi builds and the Emberblade builds.
Yeah. Which
were fundamentally different. The changes that happened pre-stubbies and post-stubbies.
Yeah.
OTK Vis, I can see that being less interesting.
OTK's Viz is... So I guess I'm thinking about like gameplay more so than just like the fundamentals of the deck, like deck building. And so like turn over turn. Like, I think OTK Viserai is actually really interesting because it's like, at what point do you pivot? Because you have to pivot at some point.
When you hit 40.
I mean, sure, but like your opponent will not always let you just hit 40. So I think the pivot on Viserai, knowing when to do that, is really interesting. Plus, Rune Blades in general are just very synergistic.
They are.
And synergistic can be really interesting as you like try to find very specific interactions, or very not just specific, but it's just like this allows you to do this, which allows you to do this, and it's like these chain reactions are really cool.
Yeah. Fi is mostly just vanilla damage. So Fi in play lines, yes. Fi in deck building, not as much, because there was a couple different ways you could. There was like some subsets you could run, which like were all fairly similar. I will give you that. But even then, they were like more interesting to me than Victor is, because like Victor has like 2 things that he's doing.
Yeah,
and that's it. And I guess I don't know like the subsets of it because I haven't worked on Victor.
Are you in the Victor Discord?
No.
It's filled with Taylor Crawford and a bunch of people who want to be Taylor Crawford when they grow up.
You're right. Sorry, Lucas.
I think Victor is really interesting on a turn-by-turn basis. It's a lot of mini games.
Powerful on a turn-by-turn basis.
It's powerful on a turn-by-turn basis, and I feel like Clash and other things feel like mini games, or like trying to get rouse off correctly.
But you just... Oh, there's such a huge difference between Rouse and Clash. Come on. Like, Clash you don't have control over. You just don't.
Yeah, but that's a mini game in the same way a slot machine's a mini game, and that's fun.
That doesn't make it interesting for me.
Okay, fair enough. I guess ultimately it's subjective. I don't know. What is your least interesting deck? I'm trying to think of what my least interesting deck is. Like, what would be the least interesting deck to me?
Clash of Agency over in deck building? Yes, that doesn't make it interesting. That is a numbers game of how willing are you to lose clashes for how many you put in your deck.
Is that interesting?
And
that's interesting.
Like,
interest peaking?
Sort of. Almost. Like, I feel like there is just going to be a mathematical solution to that, though, of your odds of winning a clash versus how many you put in, because those are also inversely proportional.
So I think, okay, so what is...
in your blood. Play Brute. Coward. Commit.
True. Okay, so let's break down what's not interesting. What's not interesting is probably lack of agency, right?
OTK Vis is pretty uninteresting because you're just not interacting with your opponent, essentially.
So lack of interaction.
Yeah.
Lack of agency, I would say. Like the lack of options.
Yeah. Where like your choices just don't matter. It's just.
But we also talked about gameplay and deck building. So it's probably also is it interesting in deck building also has to deal with agency. If your deck doesn't have a lot of options to work with, like Arachne before Outsiders, the deck's probably not interesting. Not as interesting.
Yeah, that deck was pretty uninteresting.
Actually, Arachne could be close to my least interesting deck.
Yeah, that actually
because like the hero ability is so narrow. It wants one subsection of assassin cards, which is just it's like you want to say half, but honestly there is so many. Yeah, I'm listening. There's so many stealth related stuff now that there's more stealth than there is contract, right? And if you
stealth has historically had a higher impact than contract has. I will say
there's probably more stuff of it too, especially coming into the next set.
Maybe not.
Next set. What the frick? We get even more. We get even more stealth related stuff. We
do. Definitely after the next set, there's more stealth than
this Arachne hate?
Contract.
Okay, so the original premise is Victor is the least interesting deck in Fab history. And so we're backtracking. So we were like, what is interesting? But now we're backtracking. We're like, what is uninteresting? And so uninteresting, we've determined, is a lack of agency and a lack of thank you. Lack of agency and a lack of interaction.
Yeah.
Might be Arachne.
It might be Arachne. Like, I will say,
Bolton is the most interesting.
Arachne does have like very interesting choices with his hero ability of when you play a contract, what do you do with the card that's on top of their deck?
That's a good point. That is
actually very relatively engaging choices are made there.
Enough,
and I say that like from playing Icelander versus Arachne half dozen or 10 times against Bird. So that's a point in his favor.
Bolton is more interesting because his wife died. Thank you, Country Bear 7.
All right. Sure.
Frick. So it is interesting. The Arachne stuff. He might still be close to the least interesting deck that I can think of.
Yeah. I do think Prism's deck building in this format is pretty mild.
There's interesting because a lot of people don't know how it works or how to deck builder.
You right. But like there's two options. There's like an Iris switch or a mono lag, and then once you have made that choice, there's like
I've not seen the Iris build yet, which I think is interesting.
It won both the Battle Hardened and PQ Plus last weekend.
I didn't watch that.
They didn't stream it.
Well, that's my point.
Because they're bosons.
Kano least interesting? That's got to be Cap.
Kano is actually... Kano's deck building is supremely uninteresting.
Okay, that's true. Kano's deck building is get these cards.
It is, here's the 70. That's it. And it's either you're playing the first cycle potential or you're playing Giga Stack.
It was, I think it was Arsenal Pass that said it's a 62 card deck. And you just have extra slots.
That was Majin and Teeter going into Realm 20K last year. They ran a 63 card deck.
Yeah.
And they put in 7 cards of junk.
I love that.
They put in Nourishing that they weren't playing into anything. Yeah. They put Reinforce the line in for their one of Nourishing. And they put in Imperial Warhorn for I don't fucking know what.
To destroy your opponent's potions.
Sure.
Is that's uninteresting when you don't have to sideboard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very uninteresting.
No, like yes, Kano's deck building is supremely wildly uninteresting, especially when compared to how interesting the games are.
Yeah, he's got definitely a huge swing right there.
Yes.
Whereas you would say Victor has an uninteresting gameplay, and I would say I think his deck building is really interesting because I don't build Victor like anyone I've ever seen.
You don't build any deck like anyone else.
Charles Dunn's looking at my list going, how do you win?
What is this bonehead doing? He can't even fatigue somebody. Why is he doing this?
All right, I think we'll wrap that topic up. I feel like we're just going in circles naming lists. I'm going to go ahead and shout out again that this is a live call-in show. If you have any hot takes and you want to join us, join the link that's in chat on Discord, and we can put you in here talking to us live if you'd like to, if you got a good take to talk about. I'm going to run an ad while I think the next topic I want to talk about before we get other people in is I think we say break numbers for last. So how about D-Reacts? Are we talking about D-Reacts?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so D-Reacts. Let me look at exactly what they said.
I remember it making me upset.
Was it the one? Was it what Pat Shaw said?
No, it was someone else.
Was it someone else?
Someone else said it first. I don't remember Pat saying it actually.
Because he was the one who was like defensive cards. No, he said suppose defensive cards feel like some of the best card values in game. Putting cards in front of an attacker and stopping them is much easier than an attacker lining up an effective attack. Which sounds like something a Fi would say.
Yes. That is something a 5-player would say.
So, all right, I think
you got 44 replies to this.
I got a lot of replies. You said it was a lot of replies, and I didn't believe you. Or I was like, yeah, I'm sure, it's an amount. I replied to all of them, just not even thinking about the fact 44. It's a lot. TCG players live a miserable life, yes.
This is the no profile picture Andy about to just be out here.
Social Blood's bad. Everyone who plays it is bad. All blonde heroes should be banned. No, I think it was Pat. I think I'm literally calling out. I think I'm calling out Pat right now. I just looked through all of them.
Oh my God, it was
Pat. Listen. Okay, so I'm gonna preface this with.
Yeah, I'm gonna at you, kid.
I really like Pat. So we've been doing coverage together. I respect his skill as a content creator and as everything else. So, he says blocking is too easy. And then I asked him to expound on it, and he was like, defensive cards feel like some of the best value cards in the game. Putting cards in front of an attacker and stopping them is much easier than an attacker lining up an effective attack on hit. Go into it. Are defense reactions just broken? They are really high value. No. Let's think like Sink Below, Fate for Seed.
0 for 4.
0 for 4 with
Go Again.
0 for 4 with Go Again and Upside.
Yeah.
0 for Gore. 0 for 4. 0 for Gore. No, that's attacks. 0 for 4 with Upside and Go Again. And then there's also like Staunch Response, which is a 2 for 7. Conditionally, it can also be a 6 for 10.
11.
6 for 10?
I thought it was 11, but whatever.
7.
Close enough.
It costs 4 more to get +3. Is that right?
Okay, so yeah. Yes, so 6 for 10. So it's standard rate. No, Greg, I will not change the ordering of my numbers.
I'm sorry. No, we totally had him on to talk about that at one point. It's a 2-card 7 or it's a 3-card 10, which is rate.
Yep.
That's some good numbers, especially when we're considering Michael Hamilton basically won Worlds off numbers. Tell me why it's not.
Because it's conditional. You have a single mode. Like, the number of times that people have had D-React stuck in Arsenal is Dromai because the person isn't attacking them anymore. They're clearing dragons is like insane. Like putting Soul Shield into Arsenal is half of the time a trap as Prism because you just may never get it out of Arsenal if you're going for your Halo turn with it. Like it's not busted. Is it harder potentially to attack through high block values? Yes, but that's not because of D-Reacts. That's because of armor. That's because every hero right now has like 10 plus armor or something absolutely insane that they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, those are the only decks that are alive right now because stuff like Hatchet Dory is just the floor of Dynamos is 8 block over the course of the game, at least.
Yeah.
And then they have another 8 block in armor. So their armor's at 16, so they start at 56.
And Guardians are the problem.
Like, it's...
Heck, Rampart, and you need to pay one into. Frick.
Yeah, but Crown of Seeds and Rampart were just the dynamic duo of bullshit.
Those two were crazy siblings.
Yeah, they were
and now you won't...
good together.
Seeds is just mega banned forever.
Yes, as it should be.
That sucks. Okay, this is a different topic I want to talk about some other day, but let's say they bring back the elemental heroes, but they decide double elements is too much. Do we get an ice guardian or an earth guardian? Do we get both? Earth?
I'm pretty sure we get earth.
Dang. But Winter Whale.
Yeah, I think they're going to do away with Winter's Whale.
I hate that
by doing that.
Anyways,
which means we would get an Ice Ranger and a Lightning Runeblade.
More reason why one of my best friends, Patrick Shaw, is wrong is because how did Michael Hamilton win? Was it one of his top 8 performances at Worlds? Was it top 8 or top 4?
I believe you're referring to the quarterfinals that he played the Icelander Mirror.
Yes.
Where he brain freezed his opponent and saw a card and a D-react.
Brain freeze is a spicy pick anyways. Holy frick. Was that in every Lexi deck or Icelander deck at the time? Or?
Yeah.
Holy frick. It's such a...
That card was crazy.
It felt like such a draft card.
Yes.
And
on the surface,
it's such a draft card.
It's a draft card, but it is actually one of the most insane cards in the deck. It's absolutely nuts what that card does. Like, it is Lost in Thought that costs 0.
So good.
That's pretty fucking good.
And it turns out. Speed.
Yeah. Trigger Insidious Chill.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. I forgot that you can also fuse it.
Pretty good. But yeah. Yes, he saw that. They pitched away the second, or one card got put on top. Sink Below was the only thing left in the Icelander's hand, and the Icelander put it in Arsenal. And Michael Hamilton proceeded to say, I'm not going to attack you for the rest of the game. I'm going to the semis, thank you.
And you don't have a hero power. He destroyed that guy. That guy, I believe, was also the guy that got his stuff stolen while he was at Worlds.
Yes, he was.
And that... It's so sad that he loses
Michael Hamilton
that match that way.
Dishonored him with a brain freeze.
Before Dishonor was out. Holy frick.
He dishonored him with a brain freeze before the card existed.
Holy frick.
That's actually what he did, unironically.
It's so good. LSS was like, write that down. Make a card out of it. Holy frick. Yeah, it was so insane. And so it's just, in general, Michael Hamilton was like the guy who showed the world that sometimes it's not all the numbers on a card that matter. It's one, right? So Wounded Blow or Wounded Bull was one everyone disrespected because it only blocks 2.
Yeah. It's not always on.
It's not always on, but he found a situation where synergistically it's always on, and then at that point it's above rate. And that coupled with, and this is the part where people reading numbers ignore, that coupled with a broken hero that does instant speed disruption, that's what makes it
free action point every turn. Yeah,
that's what makes it really good. Wounded Bull is not broken. It never was.
No.
Neither is Findle's Fighting Spirit.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was Icelander's hero text that was probably the broken part.
Yeah. Icelander starting at 36 was actually a buff.
Yeah, that was insane. But also,
Scar for Scar's always on. Wounded Bull's always on. Fighting Spirit's always on.
It's
Heart of Fandol's always on. She basically started at 40.
Yeah. Defensive cards shouldn't cost anything. They're pretty much fine the way they are. There's so many times
they shouldn't.
Go ahead.
They shouldn't cost any more than they do.
Yes. When I build decks, I'm like, okay, how can I make this as miserable for my opponent as possible? Or as some people would perceive, as miserable for myself as well, if they don't know me. And the problem is there's not enough, like they don't cover everything. Defense reactions are so narrow, and there's so many different kinds of decks in a meta. There's Kanos, there's Prisms, there's Guardians, there's Phis. Like there's so many different kinds of decks. Runeblade. You can't stop Runeblade. They're going to get damage through. They're so playing against Viserai as William is so stressful because it's like I can't control the game anymore. They are going to do a set amount of damage every turn and nobody can stop them. and I hate that. It's like an aggro Viserai with all like what they used to call it tempo Viserai incorrectly.
Yeah.
So it's just need to make your teammate Zach. God bless anybody who says they never want to take damage again. I love that.
Is that Zach Witt?
Do I know Zach Witt? Do I know Zach Witt?
I believe he's the owner of. I'm gonna wait and see if it's actually him. That's him. So he's the owner of Out of the Box.
Oh wait,
he was on Icelander like, what was it? God, that was last January, and I played a mirror against him, and I had all 3 Frost Hexes out on turn 3.
That's so mean. Holy frick. I'm sure I know who this is. I just can't off the top of my head like picture his face.
It was pretty funny.
Okay, so is blocking too easy? Are defense reactions too good? The best defense reaction in the game for its utility is Steadfast. Because it just gets everything. It is.
Rampart Bravo and Assassin right now. He was on Azalea for a while too.
He's on Rampart. I'm on Rampart Bravo right now. I'm on Miller's Grindstone Rampart Bravo.
You son of a bitch.
Miller's does not belong to.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't belong to Victor. It belongs to Bravo.
Oh, you're just the worst.
An Assassin. Oh my gosh. I've been looking at some of these stealth cards and I'm like, dude, I need to hang out with Zach. Me and him need to like just hang out.
These are 0 for 3 blocks with on hits. Like,
let's go.
What are we doing here, man?
I love that. Holy frick.
Couldn't have said this to me earlier.
They just need to reprint Winter's Whale in generic.
No.
So
what? You mean Titan's Fist?
I just want an on-hit weapon.
No.
I just want an on-hit disruptive weapon.
No. I want it absolutely to be, the fuck not.
Does Miller's count?
No.
I guess it doesn't. You're right, it doesn't. But it's the closest thing I have.
Taylor gave him the done list.
Oh. He never looked back. I think done list could be improved. So
I'll have to beat his face in then.
Yeah. With all your ice hexes. Okay, so blocking isn't too easy. It's just, even if it is easy, it's too narrow, right? So like counterspell and magic stops everything. It stops 95% of things. Blocking and Flesh and Blood does not stop everything. Things come in for 4, and you only have so many Sinks and Fates. Arcane damage exists. Dominate exists. Overpower. Reactions.
Here's how I know D-Reacts aren't OP. Bravo has gotten to exist because of Dominate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blocking's too easy. It's on his hero text.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to bring in our next guest? Our first guest for the night? Did you see his take?
I'll go grab him. I think I did. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting.
Okay.
It's something.
Well, we'll see.
We did kind of talk about that. All right, so I'm going to shout out we have had some followers in the last few days, right? So Weed and Sun followed us. Fresh and Buds, God bless him. Mansant, God bless him too. Cat Mellow, we hung out with Cat Mellow. He's super cool. Cryonacy. I got to play games with him. His name's Matt. Super cool. Whisper Wrath followed us. Thank you, Whisper Wrath. Ashen Wings. He's the guy. He's part of the Clash Committee. Love that guy. So thank you to all the new followers. Blocking is too easy. How are you blocking the CNC with 2 floating and a card in hand? I have the answer to that. Double Steadfast. All right, we have a caller. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey everybody, it's good to be here. I'm Nick. I'm from Florida. Nick from the Sunday Night Flesh and Blood podcast, the most mediocre podcast that started in the past month.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, give us a listen. I'm mostly here just to no, I'm just kidding. I'm here for my spicy Lexi take.
Yeah. Well, actually, I want to hear your first take first. Your second take first.
My second take first?
Yeah, I want to hear your second take first.
One that LSS is awful at naming things.
LSS is so bad at naming things, it makes me cringe.
It's not even to me, and this is mostly a take I'm just voicing for my friend because he's convincing me on it. Because with all of the new Mystic legendary instants that are actually commons, he gets so pissed every time we talk about it because he's like, they're commons, but they're legendaries. But legendary is also a keyword. Why is legendary the keyword?
Oh, I thought
why is it legendary?
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about how all the hero names are dog water.
Yeah, I mean, like that kind of it's
Victor. Yeah, that's Zen,
Betsy,
Olympia, Prism,
Enigma.
They're like a little on the nose.
Icelander
on the nose
Dash,
sometimes.
Bravo, Betsy.
Yeah,
Betsy.
But they're a little, they like to be on the nose with their names.
It sucks that Rhinar has the coolest name.
Isn't it just Rhino?
Oh, frick.
That's still pretty cool though.
I think is Dorinthia like the only. Dorinthia's like the only one I can't immediately connect.
Kasai? Yeah. I don't know. Kasai, Viserai, and Dorinthia. I don't mind.
Kasai, maybe not.
Yeah, isn't Dorinthia
Bolton?
Is Dorinthia named after James White's like grandma or something?
Oh, that's why it's not a good name.
I think it is.
Maybe.
Oh, I also think Ira's original name, which was Ira the Crimson, the Withered. Was it the Withered or the Withered Rose? Ira Weathered Rose was her like beta test name, and I think that name is hardcore. So what did you actually want to talk about on the show?
So my actual take is that Lexi, even more than like Starvo, because it's like Starvo wasn't even like, there were other things in the meta that were on the same level as Starvo, like Chain and Prism. They could keep up.
Keep going.
I think
be careful.
Lexi was so much better than the other things in the meta, maybe besides Icelander, like that, But she was so much better than everything else in the meta that like she just tricked a lot of people into thinking they're really good at this game. And now they're in this like grindy format and they lose all the time and they just complain. And they're like, oh, this game sucks now. Like, oh my God, it's so boring. It's like, no, you just can't play a Rain Razors and shoot 5 arrows and then Arctic Incarceration someone. Like you just can't do that anymore.
Interesting.
And your opponent gets to play. And you don't know how to handle it. That's my take.
Yeah. I have two quick things before we really get started.
Okay.
When did you start playing?
I started playing like around Monarch.
Around Monarch? Before Tales of Aria?
Yeah, before Tales of Aria. I like really got into playing probably around like when Nationals was in Orlando. I like went to the Calling Orlando and I was pretty much like in after that.
Okay.
I played Briar for a little bit. Played Earthlore Bounty Starvo for a little bit.
So my second statement was going to be, under this statement, considering your elaboration, I might be convinced to agree with you.
Hell yeah. That's why I'm here. I got to spread the word.
All right. So let's break it down. You said, okay, to start with you, Lexi tricked people into thinking they're good at Fab, maybe more so than Starvo. Kevin, what's your initial take?
Having not played in Starvo meta, because I started at Uprising. I forgot. So I've played like 2 LL armories of Starvo.
You need to play current Viserai into Starvo.
What?
Mm-hmm. You need to play like
Reaping Blade aggro Viserai.
Yeah.
It's like a normal deck.
Why?
It is the most average aggro deck.
Yeah, I tried playing Icelander into Starvo for 2 games. It didn't work.
Not going to go well.
I'm just saying Starvo does things to other decks. Starvo,
I'm aware,
violates people.
Yes, I'm aware.
Rick. Yeah. Was Lexi worse? Recount to me the Lexi meta.
I think me or
I was gonna have Kevin.
Okay,
so we can go back to
it was what, 30% Lexi at most things. Dromai would show up with almost equal numbers because simps and illusionist players had to not play Lexi. And then Oldham was there for like the first half of it.
Bless him.
And then the second half of it, there was no bullseye bracers. So Bravo got to kind of try and play. Icelander tried to play a little bit, but didn't do super well, in my opinion, as soon as Lexi, realized that Trench existed.
What were you playing during Lexi?
Lexi, then Dromai. I played Icelander at PT Baltimore, and that was wrong, and I stand by that was wrong.
Holy frick. All right.
I should have been on Lexi.
You said you had more you wanted to bring up? Would you say you wanted me to call you Nick? Or do you want me to call you Country Bear?
No, you can call me Nick.
I can call you Nick. Okay.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just also gonna recount the Lexi meta.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
That was the Lexi meta was probably like right around the time my son was born, so Fab took a back seat a little bit. But every time I go out to an event, I'd like play against Lexi, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, how do you beat this? And I did. Basically around that time also decided just like play Bolton for forever. Like I was like, all right, I'm not gonna try to keep up with the best decks. I'm just gonna play Bolton. And I just like, my entire sideboard was just dedicated to trying to get my Lexi matchup to like 35%. And it was just like, it was just impossible. And I even remember and I remember just even in the Starvo meta, it's like, I don't know, like Starvo, Chain, and Prism were all kind of at the same level. But I think Lexi was just like, I think Lexi was better than the rest of the decks in her format.
Yeah.
Compared to how much better Starvo. Like Starvo was obviously still the best deck in that format, but it like wasn't heads and shoulders above the rest.
The disparity is I'll agree that the disparity for Lexi was greater than for Starvo probably.
Yeah. So, I still think I really think they should have banned, because like banning bullseye or suspending bullseye bracers like clearly wasn't enough. She didn't stop winning. If you take what, a free 7 damage out of the deck and it still doesn't lose, like that's insane.
I will say that they didn't want to ban her out. They definitely didn't want to ban her out of being the best deck in the meta, because they wanted her as the best deck at the time. They wanted her to remain at the top, which is fine and healthy, just like KO is right now. For the purposes of she will accrue LO points, and then she does eventually leave. They are loosely in the mindset, even up until recently, that all these Fab 1.0 heroes needed out. So buff them. Dromai was at the top of her game, and then they gave her Tome.
Yeah. No, I think the perfect ban for Lexi would have been Red Arctic Incarceration. I think that card is what like pushed her so far. It's like she could like puke damage and then leave that card in Arsenal face up, still operate with 5 cards. And if you're having to block, she just leaves it there. And the first turn you stop blocking, she just plays it out. And then your turn is handicapped. It was like miserable. I like that card to me. Also, as a Bolton player, I ran like all yellows. So that didn't help.
It's not crippling to everybody.
Yeah. So I'm definitely biased for sure.
But I will say I played through both metas about the same amount as I play through every meta, which is, I'll play a couple of games a week. During Starvo, I have a record of 0 wins against Starvo. I have never won a game against Starvo. I've still never won, because I've played some LL tournaments and I brought bad decks, and I have still never won a game against Starvo. Lexi, I think I had a 35 to 40% win rate. I lost a lot of games, but I won a handful. It was a beatable deck. It was very, very strong. It was a beatable deck.
Yeah, it definitely was beatable.
I should have that Lexi play against Starvo and LL. Which one do you think would win? That's unrelated. That actually doesn't matter to the point at all. But
I do think at the first ever LL, if like a sanctioned event, I think Lexi won. But no.
Wait, what?
No, there was an all Starvo top 8.
No, it was all Starvo top 8.
Then they did the bans and stuff.
Yes. Then they banned like 16 cards out of Starvo's deck.
They're like, okay, you can't play 3 Crippling Crushes and 3 Oakenolds and but then they printed Concuss. I haven't played Starvo since Heavy Hitters, but I would assume like everybody's probably running 3 Concusses in that deck now, right?
I believe there was either 0 or 1 Starvo in top 8 of the LL Battle Hardened in LA.
They're not on Earthlore Bounty. They got to get on Earthlore Bounty. Make top 8.
Sure.
Lucas over here saying Ultimate Dromai was why Lexi didn't leave the meta as fast as possible, and that's 100% true. Does Ultimate Dromai fit the same sleeve as Prism Chain kind of did for Starvo, where they like played second fiddle to the best deck?
Yeah,
I think so.
They were there trying to counter the best deck.
And I'm sure, I think part of it too is looking back, it's like it just felt like Lexi was around for so long. Like, I feel like Lexi was around like before my son was born, and then still around like at his first birthday.
She was around for 9 months, I think.
Yeah, it was a long time.
I may have made that up.
Lexi?
Starvo got 1,000 points in like 2 months.
From Outsiders to LL. Was it 9 months?
It was about 8 months, I think.
Yeah.
Because Outsiders was March-ish of last year to... It would have been last week of October.
God bless your ability to remember things. Holy frick. One of my locals wanted to play against Starvo, and I put the fear of Arya into him. So the original premise of Lexi tricked people, we'll go back to the original premise. Lexi tricked a lot of people into thinking they're good at Fab, and I think even if I like kind of disagree, and maybe I'm scared of Starvo, maybe I'm biased, but even if I think that Starvo was better into his meta than Lexi was in hers, Lexi probably did trick more people into thinking they're good at Flesh and Blood, if it tricked any, because there is more game actions you have to take on Lexi. You got to do a little bit more hand and field shuffling as Lexi, whereas Starvo, it was T that brought like 3 crayons and would just eat them every time he won a game because it was so brain dead.
Crayons, yeah.
All right, Starvo LL in one season. Starvo was insane.
That doesn't mean
he got like 1,500 points in like 3 months.
Yeah, but I do actually think that like people were probably more realistic in like what they were doing as Starvo, where it's like how much is the deck doing versus how much I'm doing.
Yeah. And so,
whereas like it feels like there's more choices to make in Lexi, so it feels like it should be more complicated.
And a person who's never picked up Lexi or a Ranger before could absolutely lose several games on that deck. Like the deck won't auto win for you just because it's in your hands. You have to know how the game works. You have to know how Lexi works.
Yeah, once Lexi was a deck where once you became like a semi-proficient pilot, like you're gonna win a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a good deck. It was definitely like, I felt like it was a really good like local tournament deck, right? Like I don't remember which season she was around for, but like ProQuest and Road Nationals, that'd be a
RTN's
great
last year and PQ's last year. PQ's for LA.
It's a great deck for that. I feel like KO is kind of the same way right now, where it's like a great deck like that, right? So like at the highest level of play, people are going to find their ways around it, and people did, and Mara Ferris did, and Michael Fung did, and they made that deck look silly.
Jake Warburton on Azalea did.
Holy frick! Yes,
I assume he just ran through Lexi's.
Yeah, there was some people on Azalea making people question what the best Ranger in the format was. But geez, I think Lexi definitely could have tricked some people into thinking they're better at Fab than they are. Do you bring this up? Why do you bring this up? Are you saying there's knock-on effects? Like, what's the implication behind a statement like that?
I mean, the main reason I bring it up is because it's a talk show. I'm trying to stir the pot. I'm trying to stir the pot, get the people going.
I feel it.
I'm not trying to be a hater on anyone specifically. But I will say I overheard at Battle Hardened Atlanta. I was playing Bolt and I started out 4-0, and I was like, I was with the good players up at the top for a while. Quickly found my place again towards the middle tables. But I heard people like losing, and they'd turn to their teammate and be like, "God, I miss Lexi. It was so much easier then." It's like, yeah, dude, you just lost to a guy who's been playing Reinhardt for 4 years, and he gave you the beat down. You weren't ready for it. Sorry you couldn't, shoot 50 arrows at him, but you got to learn your matchups.
Yeah.
Holy frick. But I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just, Lexi was a little bit of a crutch, I think.
Lucas, the unofficial third member of Pit Against, says he is a hater of Lexi. Taylor Crawford was carried by her. I love that. Very funny. Very funny.
That's a battle hardened win and a calling second place.
Yeah,
with Lexi. That
put an asterisk next to
Lexi.
Yeah, put an asterisk next to those ones.
You're right. They don't count. So. And Taylor can come on here and challenge me if he wants to.
Hasn't been in months.
He's calling him out. Holy frick.
Taylor's in shambles.
Right. Yeah, no, I want to delve into that. You dodged the question. I appreciate that. But statements like that have implications, right? Lexi tricked people into thinking they're good at Fab. There are people that think they're good at Fab. Are these the people that are salty about KO right now?
About KO?
What do you mean salty about KO?
Like, I mean...
About Scabs?
Scabs? All these people... So there has been a lot of discourse on Twitter about ban this, ban that, ALS, KO, Scab skins. Yeah. Like, one of these statements on here that I was thinking about talking about tonight and then decided not to was KO... One of the takes we had was KO... should have been two heroes because having both of those abilities on the same hero is too much. And those are some strong statements by people who are very salty about something.
Wait, what are his abilities? He has one arm and he gets +1. What's the other one?
And the
his whole deck is +1.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
But not when they're on the combat chain.
Yeah.
So that kind of helps.
But like that means like the discard, when you discard a 6 clause, is just irrelevant for half your deck suddenly, and you're just worse Reinhardt.
Yeah, one of them.
I'd rather have Intimidate on discard 6 than +1 on discard 6 if I have to pick between just those.
One of them's a damage buff, kind of like Viscerai, and the other one's a consistency buff. Like, it just makes your whole deck more consistent.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I would bet that the things are 6 powers or whatever. When it's not on the combat chain, it gets +1, that whatever that power is. I would bet that wasn't originally there, and they were like, okay, he's too good with Blood Rush Claw is too powerful, so we're gonna cut off his arm. And then they were like, wait, now it's too bad. Like, what's the problem? And the problem's the resource base. So we need to give Brute more blues. We can't give Reinhardt more blue 6s because then he just becomes quad Intimidate deck, kill you.
Yeah.
So I would bet that was the internal conversation.
I think they started at the how do we give Brute more blue 6s without printing blue 6s? Weird. I think they started there because that's what they've that's what's always been talked about with this is what Brute needs. They need more blue 6s for stuff to work. That was always the talking point. So I think they started there and they're like, this is the problem. Can we create a solution for it? And they came up with that, but they're like, but this by itself isn't good enough. And it's like, well, how is this relevant? And then they just did the Phi treatment of +1 every turn.
Mm-hmm.
Then they realized with the consistency, they had to remove the arm.
I felt like I guess we'd have to talk to a developer, and as everyone talks to any developer, and the developer goes, I don't know, man, the last 6 months was a blur. So I don't think we'll ever actually know, because I thought it would be the other way around, where they're just like, we want a brute that doesn't rely on Blood Rush Bellow claw, and so they chopped an arm off and then buffed from there.
Interesting.
Who knows? I mean, I don't think anyone at LSS knows, because all of their interviews, I swear, they're just like, hey, how do you remember the process for making this card? And they're like, no, man, I haven't slept in 2 days.
Brian told us to make it. So.
Brian told us. Brian said, run this 100 times.
Yeah.
Holy frick.
But yeah, I guess, what was your original question about? Oh yeah, a statement like that has implications.
Yeah.
I think that, I think maybe part of it is, part of the thing of like, oh, people trick people into being not, or thinking they're better than they are, is like, maybe now they don't, I don't know, they didn't have to really,
they got something
game plan or sideboard a ton, because they were just doing the most powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, now we're in a situation now, like with ALS and everything, and like all the Prism complaining. It's like, playing against Prism is super confusing. That's the whole point of an illusionist. It's to to make you confused and see if you can make the right choices. If you play 15 games into a Prism with the intention of like learning what they're trying to do
and winning.
Yeah.
Don't ask Twitter to do that.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you can figure out what to do, and I think people just don't want to do that. They just want to pick up something that's easy, that's going to win.
Yep.
And now there's just stuff in the game where, like, if you don't have a good game plan that you know inside and out, there's matchups you're just going to lose.
That's well put. Yeah. Because very specifically, there's a lot of people who complain about Prism, and you're like, okay, well, what's your game plan into it? And they're like, my game plan's my game plan. Like, this is what I bring to the table.
I want to hit them.
I want to do my game plan. I don't want to do their game plan.
I don't want to play their game, except Prism kills you if you.
Except for Prism is half of the game. It's the other half of the game.
Yes.
It's on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you really want to beat every Prism you face, play Bolton. Like, I'm not even kidding. He just
100%
steamrolls Prism.
As someone who plays Prism, yes.
What does Bolton do? Is he just aggro or?
He's got 7 power poppers in his deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That are good. Most Boltons have a couple more, like CNCs or whatever. So
yeah.
Whatever. But it's got poppers. If they try to do the Spectra plan, Raiden, you can just swing for 0 to kill Spectra and not waste any cards. You can play around ALS. Spirit of Arena lets you play Luminoid instant speed to get your action point back against ALS. So like you're not. And then like if you just block and pop and set up a big like. My general game plan is like if somebody's going like the aggro Herald plan, I just use poppers to stop their damage. When I have my Spirit of Arena out and a Via the Vanguard in Arsenal, I let like a Herald of Erudition hit. They draw 2 cards and I pop Balance of Justice, and then I tunic 6 card Via the Vanguard hand, and then they have no board and they're like 5 life.
Ow!
And they lose.
See, this is Bolton is. And I think in part it might be a lot of the like extra cards he's gotten over the years because they've just been giving him stuff.
Yeah, they're like.
But he is so like rewarding for someone who wants to spend time on him. I know of almost no. I have heard of none of those lines before, but I don't play Bolton. But I know people who do play Bolton, and I don't necessarily think of those because that's a specific matchup between 2 heroes, and I don't play either of them. And I think that's really interesting.
I think that's just what like Fab is right now. Like I think it's like a matchup. Like the meta is like a matchup knowledge meta.
Ooh,
yes.
This is interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna call out what Kevin was calling out in chat. Lucas, most players are too focused on trying to optimize their own gameplay and ignore what the other person is doing. Bring back disruption. Bring back ice cards. That's what I read. I'm putting words in his mouth.
Well, what if I run all yellows in my deck? I can't do it.
I think the Bolton player just died inside a little bit.
He's like, I optimized my game plan for Prism. I can play around this.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what do you mean ice? What do you mean I gotta play around ice?
What do you mean
I flip a red Arctic Incarceration face up? I play a red Arctic Incarceration. You have 4 Frostbites.
Like, all right, pitch 2 cards to play Take Flight.
I pitch a card to swing Raiden.
3 cards. Yeah.
Yeah, pitch 2 cards to swing Raiden.
Dude, you just need to optimize your game plan into that specific kind of deck, right? Just like with Prism, right?
Give us Ice Illusionist, please.
Ice Illusionist.
I would start playing Lorcana. I'm not even kidding.
Whoa. We don't need to start doing... Hold on a minute.
I'm just kidding.
Don't be hasty.
They don't even have a limited format. Oh my gosh.
Wait, they don't?
No, they do. It's... But don't. Anyways.
Yeah.
We need an Ice Light Warrior. That's what we need.
Yeah, we do. Don't pick up Bolton if you're listening. It's not worth the effort.
I think it's just like... I think it's one of those decks that's like a really interesting, like almost like a thought experiment, like Viserai, where you're just like there's so many small things you have to learn, and it's incredibly unrewarding, but it but there's so many things to learn, and it's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just trashing on you, my bad.
But playing Illumina Ascension at instant speed is like the most fun you'll ever have in this game.
That's a bold statement. Fun is subjective.
No, yeah. I thought we were here for hot takes.
That is a hot take. You're right. Holy free.
Yeah,
well,
thing I've done in the last 6 months for this game is a double Genesis loop where I got to swing for 20 and play an ALS on the last turn.
Gross. Thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out? You already shouted out before, but shout it out again.
I guess I'll shout out my new podcast me and my friends started. It's called Sunday Night Flesh and Blood. So we spend about an hour a week on it. We record, publish almost immediately. So it's on YouTube and Spotify.
Perfect. They say something,
but it's not a YouTube video. It's just a picture.
Well, you need to put video on there, like your faces, or else.
That's like
this is my content creator threat. Podcasting faces.
All right, I'll figure it out. I'll watch a YouTube video on how to do it. I'll learn how to do it.
There you go. All right. Also, I love talking about content creation. If you ever want to talk to me about that, I love to do that. But thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Maybe. Depends.
If you're available and you got something you want to talk about, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll think of more hot takes. I'll keep it in the back of my mind.
Heck yeah. All right.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you for coming on. See ya. That was a really good conversation.
Yeah.
Because as I think any good hot take should be, I read the take and I was like, this is total garbage. And then like he explained it a bit and I was like, actually, I walked away thinking, maybe Lexi did trick a lot of people into thinking, yeah, it's kind of true. So that was really good.
The deck was definitely messed up. I played it for like 2 weeks and thought I was going to take it to a Pro Tour.
It's good. It was good.
It was good. Why?
So, yeah. Hey, Gordon. I think we could wait and talk about this next week. I don't know if you want to spend the time to talk about it now, but we were talking about breaking numbers.
It's
kind of
about that next.
Yeah, it's kind of a long conversation.
Yeah.
So I think we'll wrap it up there. Lucas, thank you for being on today. Do you have any shout outs? Starvo made me think I was good. All right, sure. I think that about wraps it up. Kevin, do you have any shout outs?
Table Pit had a new video come out.
Holy frick! Why didn't we talk about that? Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
We had a new video come out, ladies and gentlemen, where I tricked people into giving me playmats, and then I cut them up in my basement and made a nightmare abomination. We haven't talked in person about it. It was, now that I've posted the video on it. You saw the video, right?
Yeah.
Holy frick. I got a lot more positive feedback from not just people who just generally watched it, but also like people that I look up to is a strong word, but bigger creators in the space. I got to chat about it, and that was very that I respect. I was very excited. Shout out Taylor Crawford, my teammate, my homie. Shout out to sponsor Talishar for a bug where people's items and tokens disappear. That's my favorite part about Talishar is it can just eat your cards. Just like when I play against opponents at big events, I eat their cards. That's how you win.
They're not presenting a legal deck. Judge. I'm pretty sure it's 59 cards now, but I'm just guessing.
I don't know why they only have 2 CNCs. I think that's very sus. Frick. Yeah, the new table pit video, it was called What to Do with How to Deal with Having Too Many Playmats.
Something like that.
I build the Franken mat, and it's great. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out.
It's hilarious.
Holy frick. So thank y'all so much for watching. We'll have webcam UPF next Monday. Bye.